Alright, well, here we are for another video. This is going to be more of an unscripted video. I do have a scripted video I do have planned, which is kind of what would Reconstruction after U.S. redacted would look like. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this script because I think that there needs to be stuff added and stuff like that, and I just barely got 2 paragraphs in. Originally I was going to make this about, can you separate soldiers from a political idea? And I was like, that's kind of a crappy idea. And the only reason I was doing that was because I saw they had the audiobook on YouTube of Otto Carius's book, Tigers in the Mud. And I think I think I can segue this. It's going to be a poor segue, but nonetheless. Thinking about all the Spurgy type stuff that folks do, of collecting all these memoirs about, some German soldier in the Second World War, what some general did, and collecting books about it. The whole thing is that it speaks to a lost glory. It speaks to holding on to the past. Like, oh, look at these amazing things that, Otto Carius did, or what, Herbert Biederman did in the book In Deadly Combat, or whichever, Oh my gosh, look at the amazing things they did. Oh, I want to study everything about it. And the thing is that you're doing that because you don't want to experience real life as much, because maybe you're bored of where you live, maybe you just feel just burnt out. And so you'd rather at least, in my case, it's the image of having all these books and reading them if you want to, but really you're not going to read them. And I look at my bookshelf and look at the probably I'm gonna say 100 books. I'm probably maybe on the low end of books I have on my shelves right now, and thinking I probably won't read a lot of these. It speaks to a larger idea of being a wanderer. I think a lot of folks in the U.S. feel out of place. A lot of folks do. I really don't think that it's talked about enough. A lot of folks just feel alienated. This is where you get these wignats, and this is where you get, these MLs and these anarchists and whatnot. They feel alienated in the world. They feel that they're not part of this American idea. And so because of that, they join these groups. Now, of course, the intentions and the motivations behind someone who becomes like more of a Wignat type of a person who says, oh yeah, well, I want to, preserve the white race or something, is going to be different than an anarchist who says, we want to get rid of unjust hierarchies. Of course, those are two different things. But it starts with some sort of disillusionment. And I think that, this is kind of one of those ideas that, you go from job to job. You don't really feel attached to anything. You're just worried about how much money you get from a job. That way, when you do leave, you hope that you have enough money so that you can, pay to get your truck fixed, as I did. You don't really feel a sense of loyalty to a company. You don't really feel a sense of loyalty to the country, just as much as it's just as much as they can do for you. Of course, JFK's famous line of, ask not what you can do for your country, ask ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's it. And the thing is that I'm at the point, it's reversed now. And that's why I said it that way in the first place. That's why I was thinking it. But it's like, what can this country give me? And that's where we're at. We have come to the time in this country where we just want Gibbs. And I hate to use that term Gibbs because I know it's such a, Wignat reactionary term, but I'll say it nonetheless, is we've come to this point where we're all just hope, it's like people like me who are in college, we just hope that Biden will just forgive that student loan money up to $50,000, which yeah, that'd be great if it happened. Then I'd be clean. There would be zero. So maybe I'll just hold out long enough, and if he can do that, then I won't criticize Biden as much. I still criticize him, and I'm not gonna be one of these folks who just like, well, yeah, Biden is on the right track. He's not my guy. These people like Bo the Fifth Column, Justin King. But anyway, I talk way too much about him and Vosh. I'm sorry. I do it because there's a fair amount of clout I get, But, there's a lot of wandering around. There's a lot of, just kind of going from thing to thing. The stability in my life is the fact that, yeah, I do live at home with my parents. So that's the source of stability. But in terms of where that goes from here, that's kind of up in the air, isn't it? Pretty soon, hopefully I'll be graduating. If I can finish reading this chapter in the book and get that quiz done, and then, reread the 3 other chapters that I have, and take that test, and then do this silly video or whatever and get that done, and get a C at least, then, yeah, I will graduate. I'm not going to graduation, but yeah, anyway, beyond that is, then I'll be entering into the job market again. Probably having to go to express employment until I can find something more permanent. Which, such is the way. I'll end up playing that game for a bit of time and making enough money to get by. And then, maybe finding something permanent. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like in that amount of time, but there's a lot of desperation out there. This is less about being a wanderer, isn't it? And just more about the sense of desperation that exists out there. I think that there's a lot of folks who are talking shit, but I don't think that they're still trying to get people involved. And they're still talking about, oh, well, people just want to go home, and they don't want to talk about politics, and they just want to turn on their Netflix. Yeah. Once the Netflix is gone, and once it becomes less accessible, then it's your job to get these folks on your side. No matter if you're an anarchist or a Marxist-Leninist, a so-called National Socialist. I'll be polite and say it that way, but it's cringe. It's your job to get these folks on your side. Are you doing that? No, not right now they aren't. They're still on YouTube, circle jerking. Same thing I'm doing right now in a way. But I just say this as a sense of there's a lot of folks who just feel disconnected, who are wandering in this world. And who, like people like me who have all these books that I'll probably not read, or I'll just, read maybe 10 or 15 pages of and then I'll forget about. Are people that are just kind of like, well, what can you provide me? And the thing is that there's a lot of ideologues who get angry about that. There are a lot of, I see it in people like, Finnish Bolshevik, where he's just angry that he's like, well, how dare the people, how dare those truck drivers, were, screwing over the Bolshevik party or Bolshevik system because they wanted to get paid more. Makes perfect sense. Nowadays, of course, there's no real, threat, because ultimately we have, more automation and everything else. But I'll go ahead and finish it up with this. There's going to be a lot of discontent that occurs. And it's just a matter of which side you choose. And with that, I say, see you later and goodbye.